Rev it up and welcome to Cars Yeah, show number 1708.
This is Cars Yeah, where you'll enjoy interviews with inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Mark Green is here to provide you with a fuel injection of automotive inspiration. So get in, sit down, buckle up, and get ready for a wild ride here on Cars Yeah.
Hello, inspiring automotive enthusiasts, and welcome to Cars Yeah. Today I'm in Northville, Michigan with a very special guest by the name of David Kibbey. David, welcome to Cars Yeah. Are you buckled up and ready for a fun ride?
I have been waiting for this moment forever. This is amazing. Thank you for having me.
Well, for sure. We're going to have some fun today. Now, before I give you a proper introduction, tell me one little thing that most people may not know about you, David.
So I'm actually 14 years old, and I am a freshman in high school.
All right. Well, you know, I was hoping I would get to say that, but that's okay.
Okay.
That's okay. You know, I believe you're one of the probably only three youngest people. I'd have to find out everybody's birth months to see if you're technically the youngest ever. But I've had a couple other 14-year-olds that were race car drivers. But you do something that's near and dear to my heart, and I'll mention that in an introduction. So let me give you a proper introduction here. David Kibbey is a 14-year-old, as he said, host of the Car Reviewers Podcast, a fellow podcaster. He's been active in many automotive events over the past 6 years, including the Greenbrier Concours d'Elegance, the Concours d'Elegance of America, Concours Cancellation, we all know about that one, and the Virtual Concours put on by my friends at Magneto Magazine, and many local cars and coffee events in his neighborhood. He was a youth judge for Haggerty at several events as well. He's earned multiple awards for his charitable efforts, including the Livonia. Am I saying that right? Livonia Outstanding?
Yes, you are, Livonia.
Okay, Livonia Outstanding Youth Award in 2019. And this year he was nominated for the Metro Detroit Young Change Maker Award. And he is a 2-year recipient of the Junior National Honor Society. Congratulations for all that, David. We're going to learn more about you in a moment.
Thank you.
You're welcome. But first, a word from our valued sponsors that make this show possible. So sit tight, keep your seatbelts on. We'll be right back. Did you know Covercraft offers you much more than just car covers? They have quality protection for the inside of your vehicle as well. Their plush, custom-fit floor mats turn any ride into something special. Or choose Premier Berber Custom Floor Mats, a favorite of mine, if you want something very stylish and pretty unique. Covercraft floor mats are quality made and provide your ride with the ultimate protection from moisture, dirt, mud, snow, and slush, and those occasional spills. Don't forget your vehicle's trunk area. Their Carhartt custom cargo liners not only look great, but keep your rear cargo area and seats protected. Custom fit truck liners for sedans, coupes, and SUVs are perfect to protect the factory carpet from all those things that could stain and damage your vehicle. All your options are quality made, easy to use, secure to the floor, and look oh so good. Check out covercraft.com for a wide variety of styles, colors, and options for a custom fit today. And have I got a deal for you? If you use the code YEAH120 at covercraft.com, you'll get 10% off your Covercraft order. That's right, 10% off. Simply use the code YEAH120, YEAH120 at checkout. Covercraft, protecting the things that move you. When it was time to renew my last policy for my collector car, my carrier's rates went up. They went way up. But my usage was the same, and I never had made a claim. No tickets, nothing. What's with that? American Collectors Insurance, that's who now protects my Porsche Turbo, the one I call my Orange Crush. Has your collector car insurance recently raised your rates for no good reason? Tired of paying an annual membership fee? I was too. So I shopped around, I asked friends for recommendations, and found a winner that I can trust. And boy, am I glad I did. I'm saving hundreds of dollars. I can sleep at night knowing my baby is properly insured. American Collectors Insurance have been protecting vehicles since 1976. They provide me with an agreed value insurance policy backed by a history of taking care of their clients. What could be better than that? Give them a call for a quote today at 866-ACI-YEAH. That's 866-224-9324. And protect the ones you love like I did. American Collectors Insurance. Classic car insurance designed by collectors for collectors. All right, David, we're back. And as we continue on this journey, I'm going to call your life. I would love for you to start with a success quote or a mantra. I like to say it's something that's been instrumental in forming your young life. It's a nice way to get the inspirational tires spinning a little bit here on Cars Yeah. So, David, I know you don't have a driver's license yet, but don't tell your parents. Grab the wheel.
Do the right thing and everything else will fall into place. I've tried to live my life by this, and this quote is very well known. I'm sure if you ever watched the History Channel's Mark Muller, he got Guns and Automobiles television show. This was his opening quote to the show, and it passed by many times on my screen because I've always been into the automotive dealership business. I've loved it, and I saw this quote many times, and I just started to think, I could maybe make this my mantra, my quote to live by. So every time I've thought of a quote like that, this has always been the one.
Well, it's not a great quote, and especially for a young person, any person really, but a young person to have. How have you incorporated maybe some elements of that into, let's say, what you're doing with your podcast? And we're going to talk more about that in a minute, but how have you incorporated that into your life? For the podcast and for life in general, I don't know everything. I'm new to this car world. I have been around and I've grown up around it. Wait a minute. I thought all teenagers knew everything. That's what mine told me. That's what I told my parents when I was a teenager.
I learn new things every day, especially, being on the show with you. I'm sure that I'll pick up hundreds of little facts or, many, many little facts as we go along, but I'm still learning. Yeah. So it's something to carry around with you. Yeah, every day. Absolutely.
Well, you're a unique teenager then, and I'm glad to hear that.
Thank
Absolutely. You. Thanks for letting me poke a little bit of fun there. My son is visiting me as we speak here today, and he's far from a teenager now. In fact, he just turned 27 this week.
Congratulations.
Well, yeah, pretty cool. But back when he was a teenager, yeah, he always reminded me. And he still does a little bit today. Dad, I already know this stuff. Of course, he works at Google, so they know everything, right? So I Google him all the time. Yeah, he always tells me to just Google it and stop bothering him. So, okay, well, I wish I had thought of that when you were asking me to tie your shoelaces when you were a little boy. But, I got to get that back. He's a great young man. Very proud of him. Well, let's move into what you're doing because, I really wanted to have you on the show, and I appreciate you reaching out to me. Podcasting is something, of course, I've done for 6.5 years, and I love helping young people, and I love sharing inspirational stories, and you certainly are one. To be as young as you are and to be so ambitious, and also the fact that you love cars, that helps a little bit too. So let's talk a little bit about the Car Reviewers Podcast. Why did you decide to get into this? What is it about it where you plan on, where do you plan on taking the Car Reviewers Podcast, and what is it all about?
So the Car Reviewers Podcast started earlier this year, and we got off to rather steady growth. We're still growing, and as I said, I don't know everything. I'm learning new stuff every day when putting the show together and talking with guests, but it can be found anywhere you get your podcasts. As of now, though, I'm very interested in the next generation of car enthusiasts, my generation of car enthusiasts. And my goal is to put together a full range media service for the younger generation of car people. And hopefully this becomes possible. I've been, putting together with groups of my friends. We've been working on a website, and hopefully, we're trying to still put together our backing. But yeah, it's something cars are my passion. So I'd like to make them my career as you have.
Absolutely. Well, this is fascinating. And again, kudos to you for your ambition at your young age. When I was 14, I was starting my own car care business. Now that we didn't have these things called computers or cell phones back then. So that dates me a little bit, but it's really fun because when you're young and you have your own business, you start to learn a lot of things and you learn a lot of stuff. You make a lot of mistakes, but you realize that being an entrepreneur is pretty fascinating. And it sure beats flipping burgers. Nothing wrong with flipping burgers if that's what you like to do. But, here you can wrap your passion. So let me ask you this, David. What is your podcast all about? What would people expect to learn when they go there and listen?
So when you come onto our podcast, it's a totally different experience every week. We have classic car information. We have new car information. We have games thrown in between, special stories, guests. Very, very important part of our show is our full range of guests. And as I've said to you prior, we're working on rebranding the show right now. Okay. So what we had before might not be, if you go back and listen to our older episodes, might not be, what we're coming out with in the next couple of weeks here. So stay tuned, because a lot of really interesting stuff is coming down the pipeline.
Well, I think this is cool. You're already pivoting, which is a
Yes.
big, important part of any business. You have to adjust and move. And and being in a young business, understanding what do your listeners want and how are they doing things and what can we do differently? How can we improve? I mean, that's so important. The fact that you're learning at a young age is pretty cool. Now, the name to me implies that you review cars. Is that right?
See, yes. So, it started off that way, talking about cars and special information, but it quickly turned into TCR is the name that we're going with now. Like I don't want to say we're copying TFL in any way, the fast lane car, but it started to fall into that as I was talking with my friends. We're saying, TCR, and I really like the name. It fell into play. So with the new service that's coming out, TCR is going to be the brand name going forward. But we are still known as the Car Reviewers. That is still our branding as of right now. So that's how you can find us.
So do you go out and look at vehicles and then talk about them? I mean, you mentioned having guests on your show, and big shout out to Nigel Matthews who connected us. And I understand he was a recent guest on your show?
He was the weekend of the 21st, Saturday, the 21st of November.
Cool.
He was a guest on the show. We got down and we talked about a lot of amazing topics. He's an interesting guy. I could have a conversation with him for hours, honestly, just about, simple things. It doesn't even have to be cars, but, we talked about cars. We talked about watches. I'm very interested in watches. So we talked about watches a little bit and just had a great time.
Well, he's a past guest here and also the founder of Podenki, the watch website and publication. And you mentioned that they said they had something to say about cars. Yeah, I've got to get my hands on that.
Oh, so Podenki, I had been reading. It's a publication out of New York, I believe.
Yep.
And I was reading through it. And yes, I believe they had in their most recent print magazine some topics about cars. Yeah.
Well, cool. I'll have to do a shout out and thank them for that. I'm always the last to know what's the deal with this, but I'm glad you're on the cutting edge. I got to keep up with you, David. I think that's pretty cool. Well, let me ask you, you talk about car reviews. Do you have a favorite mark of car?
So, my car tastes goes back and forth because that's what I do. I look at cars. I talk about cars all day. So it goes back and forth often, but right now, I'm very interested in Porsche and what they're doing, and also, this is hard for me to say because I am a very, very big Ford guy, but I've been looking at the way Chevy's moving currently and General Motors as a whole, and they're taking some steps in the right direction. I've noticed. So, in the new car market. Yeah.
Well, I just recently had Mike Furman, who has sold more Corvettes, I think, than anybody on the planet. I mean, it's incredible. And we talked at length about the new Corvette. Maybe we could chat about that for a quick second, because I think they took a huge, bold move with that vehicle. And every time I see one, I have to go, wait, is that a Ferrari? I mean, it's incredible. And you can't even, I think it takes you like 13, 14 months to even get one. You can't even find one. And I saw one that just recently resold. Somebody flipped it and made an instant 25-30% increase on their initial investment because they're so affordable. So what is it about GM? Is it Corvette in particular, or is it some other things about GM that you find interesting of what they're doing with their brand?
So it is no secret that I'm a Ford guy. If you ever listen to my show, my grandfather was in the Ford dealership business, but I've loved the direction they're going recently. And I think it started with the early renderings of the Corvette that were starting to leak. And it's moved into the CT4, the CT5, which were topics on our show with Nigel, actually. But they're pivoting, and I like it. And I love the new Suburban. They're making big moves, I think, with their SUV market, especially with the Premier model, which has airbag suspension. A big deal because the ride had been horrible, and we talked about that on the show before as well. But, getting into what you were saying about price, though, increase and the crazy influx, it reminds me of, in a way, how you could buy, a 911 GT2 RS and then immediately go and flip it for much more than it was listed at from Porsche. But yeah, I have seen, when I've been looking at the market recently, I have seen going for $95,000, $100,000, and it's crazy. It is crazy.
It is. Well, I'll tell you a little secret. Even the PT Cruiser, when it came out, people were making money on that, if you can believe that or not. They were. They really were.
Oh, my gosh.
I know. Isn't that incredible? So, everybody wants to be the first guy in the block, and some people have maybe more money than common sense. Usually those two things are flip-flop, but I'm always in awe. But again, now you're seeing the Ford GT. You see those? I think Fantasy Junction just sold one for almost $1 million last week. Mm-hmm. So you're going, oh my gosh, there's always somebody who wants to have something they can't get, and they're willing to pay for it. If they are, then kudos to them. That's great. And the person who's making a little money smiles all the way to the bank. So these things, I guess that's why Ford put that rule on their vehicles when they came out, that you had to wait 2 years. But now those 2 years are coming to fruition, and people are going, now it's time to make a little bit of money. And the car market, even with this COVID situation, seems to still be on fire. And I'm talking about the collector car market, the high-end car market, and even things like campers and trailers. I mean, they're selling like wildfire. It's crazy.
Even if you look at boat sales as well, through this summer, there were places couldn't even keep boats on their lot for more than a day. It's crazy. They're being sold out instantly. And you see that, though. Ford went into COVID kind of struggling a little bit, and during COVID struggling, but they turned a $4 billion profit, I believe I was reading, in the last quarter. So obviously they're doing something right. Especially with the new Bronco launch that's coming out. I love the new Bronco.
Well, the new Bronco, that made a lot of news and a lot of excitement for people. And it's I kind of thought, well, it's about time. Get in line with everybody else that's done this stuff. Of course, Chevrolet, they came out with their kind of version of that, and they went down a weird path,
Well,
yeah. It's like, why did you do that? That didn't make any sense. But, it's boardroom marketing, and sometimes that's not such a great thing. Well, let's talk a little bit about a challenge. Now, you've listened to Cars Yeah, which I appreciate. And from that, that I ask all my guests this question, and that is, share a big challenge, even a big failure that you faced. Now, you're such a young guy, it almost seems silly to ask you. However, your life is still your life. So I'm sure there's some times in your life you face some challenges. So walk us through one of those. But of course, from listening, the most important part of this is the lesson you learned and how you took that lesson forward. So take us on a little trip here, David.
Okay. So a couple of months ago, when I started TCR, the car reviewers, I had been looking in. I've been very interested in the next generation of car enthusiasts, as I said, and I wanted to make a change and start a website to help promote and do videos and the whole 9 yards. And I was jumping in way too fast, for the moment. But there are two possible answers to this question, and one of them was when I put together the website, I was putting the finishing touches. I had written articles. I had done, I put little videos together. I had done everything, and just little problems kept popping up, and I would notice them, and I'd make a change, and it got to the point where, school was starting back up, and it wouldn't have worked. So I went completely back to the drawing boards, and I'm still putting plans together, as I said earlier, but and finding the right team to help me make it happen was also hard, because at my age, kids will be interested in something for a short time, and then it'll go off and be something totally different.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
So so I had put together a group of people that I was really solid and I enjoyed, but then it got to the point where I noticed I need to get some adults on board to make this happen. So I'm still in search for that, and hopefully people will come out of the woodworks and be as interested in this next change as I am. But also,
I'm going to jump in here because maybe I can help you with this a little bit.
Okay.
I'll ask you this: what type of people are you looking for, and what kind of help?
So I can put a website together, and I can write articles and do creative design videos. I can do it all of that. But I need the backup support from people that have done all of this before. Mm-hmm. So, website designers that understand how to put media along the side to sell ads and video creators that are very well versed in what they're doing, because I can come up with the ideas and I can come up with what I need, but it's getting it executed the proper way to the point where it will scale, and do well.
Well, one piece of advice I can ascertain here, or I should say one piece of advice I would offer is don't be afraid to ask for help. Sometimes people are afraid to ask for help. The great thing about being young is I found with young people is they're not really afraid of trying stuff. And that's why this technology is so easy for young people and difficult for older people, or hard for older people, because they're afraid of breaking something. Young people kind of go, I'll just start pushing the button, whatever, do whatever. I mean, I see it in my own kids. I'm like, stop, don't do that. I'm like, what's the problem, Dad? Now you try to teach sit next to a teenager like I did with mine and teach him how to drive for the first time in stick shift in a Porsche, especially an old Porsche, and watch me freak out. But they're like, don't worry about it, Dad. Those noises are normal. Like, no, they're not. That would be gears grinding. That doesn't sound good to me. But that's what I would suggest to you is, seek out. And there's a great saying that my listeners know. We are the culmination of the top 5 or 6 people we hang around with the most. Turns out our parents are right. Choose your friends wisely. And make sure you hang out with the right people who can help and augment you, and people that know more than you. And that sounds like you are doing exactly that. So
thank you.
That's the way to do it. Yeah. So I would, and even on your website, maybe say, I'm looking for this, so that we'll make sure we put links to send people to your website so that.
So our website actually is not up yet. That's what,
okay.
The big, when we do that, I want it all to be, cohesive. So if there's anybody out there that understands this better than I do, our email is in the bio. I had added in there. So
definitely,
if there's anybody that understands this that wants to reach out to the car reviewers, we would love to talk to you, even if it's just talking cars. Whatever, we would love to talk. So
well, there you go. I'll make sure to put a link to that email on David's show notes page here on the Cars Yeah website. You listeners know the drill. Just go to carsyeah.com, type in David Kibbey, Kibbey, and you will find links to his page there so you can connect with him. And if there's someone out there that wants to give you some help, I'm sure that they'll connect with you. So hopefully we'll send some help your way. Let's take a short break, and you're welcome, and thank our sponsors. And we come back, I want to dive into this personal passion you have for cars here, David. So keep your seatbelts on. We'll be right back. Let's step away from the conversation and talk about our charity of choice here at Cars Yeah, America's Automotive Trust. America's Automotive Trust is a group of like-minded nonprofits that are working together to preserve and promote car culture across the country. Together, they provide scholarships and grants to aspiring technicians and restoration artists. They provide youth education programs and bring communities together through auto-related events, car shows, and drives. Among these nonprofits is TechForce Foundation, a great organization dedicated to solving the technician shortage that threatens the transportation industry today. By providing career development resources and increasing awareness and enthusiasm for the tech profession, TechForce is bringing bright young students into the auto, diesel, aviation, marine, motorcycle, motorsports, and restoration worlds. To date, they've awarded more than $10 million in scholarships and grants to tech students. And in times like these, I don't have to tell you how essential those techs are, keeping our delivery and emergency vehicles running and keeping America rolling. To learn more about TechForce or to make a donation to this cause, visit www.techforce.org. You'll be glad you did. So what do you do after running a race team for 27 years with over 100 podiums, multiple Daytona wins, and a win at Le Mans? Racer and the Racers Group team owner Kevin Buckler founded Adobe Road Winery. Located in Petaluma, California, he and his team have created a winning combination with the Racing Series. These are 4 ultra-premium red wine blends that are in a class of their own. Like racing, these wines comprise of art, precision, engineering, science, wrapped in a whole lot of fun. You can choose from 4 blends, titled Redline, Apex, Shift, and the 24. Today I'm going to tell you about Apex. It's a rich and complex blend of Cabernet Sauvignon, Syrah, and Cabernet Franc. This blend is a showcase of perfection and hits the apex with its full-bodied, smooth finish. An added, very cool option is the label. It's a multi-dimensional rumble strip apex, reminiscent of Turn 4 at Laguna Seca. The Racing Series is a spectacular gift for the automotive enthusiast in your life, and I've got a deal for you. If you use the code CARSYEAH, all one word in all caps, at checkout, you get $10 off any purchase of the wines from the Racing Series. Your wine ships promptly and arrives quickly. Use the code CARSYEAH at checkout for $10 off your purchase today. There's always a seat at the table for excellence with the Racing Series. Go to adoberoadwines.com today and use the code CARSYEAH. Cheers! All right, we are back, and I'd love for you to share a story that instigated this personal passion that you have for cars. Somewhere along the line, there was a pivotal moment when you decided, you know what, I think I like this car thing. I think I'm going to augment my life a little bit more. So take us on a little drive.
Okay, well, I can call to mind, there are hundreds of stories from over the years from Concours events and from car shows, but one that comes to mind the most and really culminated and helped grow my automotive passion was one day, special day with my grandfather, and we visited the Rouge Ford truck plant in Dearborn, which is right in our backyard here. But, you know, my grandfather, as I said, was in the Ford dealership business in Latvia. And he was a significant part in launching my car passion. He passed away a couple of years ago, but, you know, this memory still comes back.
Yeah.
So we were visiting Ford truck assembly. And because, you know, as a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, that's all you want to do. And I could barely remember the walk around the plant, but I vividly remember being in the store and him purchasing me one of the model 64.5 Mustangs, and it was black, and I still have it actually. And we went home and played with it for hours. And then we had grilled cheese sandwiches with my grandma made for us.
Nice memories.
Yeah, great. And I still keep that Mustang on my desk when I do the show because it is such an important part of my automotive passion.
Yeah.
So I hold that with me every single time that I go and I start the show.
Ah, great memory. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know you're only 14, so I'm assuming here that you don't own a car yet. Is that right?
I have not had that pleasure yet, but again, if there are any listeners, I guess, out there that have recommendations for first cars, I have honestly, looking at cars is my passion, as I said before, and everybody passion, obviously, that's listening to this. But it is one of the most pivotal decisions I've noticed at my age right now is choosing what car, you know, that you would like. So I've had a lot of trouble. Every day I find something different that I love, as I'm sure many people out there do too.
You've got a little bit of time here. And of course, there's other factors at your age, because when you turn 16, you get a car. There's all sorts of things, little things that kind of get in the way, like cost of insurance if your car has too many cylinders or too much horsepower, or gasoline usage.
Never too much horsepower.
Your parents, if they're going to pay your insurance, they might beg to differ. But if you're going to pay your own insurance, you will understand that really, really quick when you call. Maintenance issues, repairs, reliability. There's all these factors. But let's go down this path. Since I always ask my guests for their first special car, I'm going to ask you it this way. What's the first car that you got a ride in that was really special for you?
Ooh, okay. I've had a lot of really great experiences with cars, but I would have to say probably my first very rare car that I was ever able to ride in was a Hertz Mustang, actually.
Okay.
And, I had ridden in many cars. My first car that I remember riding, it was a Model A. That was my first really special car. But, this Hertz Mustang was beautiful. And the gentleman that owned it, I think, bought it in 76. And at the time... He
was about 10 years old then?
Yeah, 10 years old. And it was looked at, as a Hertz rent-a-car. People didn't want it. They didn't think it was cool at the point. But, he scraped together all the money he had because he was going to be driving a Mustang. So he bought it and drove it for years. And after that, he just kept it because it was his first car. Big deal. His first car he ever bought himself. Yeah. And now he goes online. He's like, oh, wait, this car is worth, a multiple $100,000 and, is getting into six-figure money. But he did tell me he had been in one accident with it, but it was prior to him owning it. I believe the car had been into an accident. But that honestly, because it had been repaired in the period, had not affected the value as much as it would if it were a new car that had been in an accident. So,
yeah, for sure.
But it was just, it was one of those things. Nothing had ever been changed though on it. No repaint, no nothing.
Nice.
So that's what was so important about it.
Very cool. Those are great cars. Now, here's a bit of an introspective question, David. I'm going to get into your head a little bit here.
Okay.
If you woke up tomorrow and you were a vehicle, now this isn't what you want to be. This is very important to understand this concept. This is your attributes, your personality into or manifest into a vehicle. So what would David Kibbey be? And more importantly, why?
I'd say, I think I probably would be like maybe let's say a Lincoln Navigator, a Ford Expedition, something big, likes to talk to people, a great, easy, go with the flow kind of car, but also very nice as well.
Okay. And lots of room for your friends to come along. So
lots of room for your friends to come along. Yeah.
I like that. All right, David, we're entering what I call the last lap. I'm going to fire off some questions, kind of a rapid fire series here, a lightning round, and get some quick blips of that Lincoln Navigator or Ford Expedition throttle. So here we go. Could you share one of your personal habits you believe has contributed to your successes in life so far?
I think my ability to talk to people and make connections, and obviously, as you just said, ask for help is very important as well.
Yeah, very important attribute for anybody at any age. And if I could wave a magic wand and arrange for you to sit down and have a drink or a meal, in your case, non-alcoholic, of course, with anyone in the automotive industry, living or deceased, just in case your mom and dad are listening, we don't want to get in trouble here. Well, who would that individual be and why?
Honestly, this list could clearly go on forever, but I'd say Mario Andretti right now because, as said prior, I'm very interested in watches and cars.
Yeah.
Both things that Mr. Andretti is well versed in and enjoys as well.
Very cool. Now, when it comes to the best automotive advice someone else has offered to you, what would that be?
I'd say, and you're going to definitely recognize this quote, but life is too short to drive boring cars, from Haggerty. And it might be because I do have a cabinet full of Haggerty mugs or coasters, but I love that quote. And I also love their other one, avoid tough choices, build a bigger garage. That one definitely embodies how I would feel about cars.
Absolutely. So how about a resource? You're living in a time that I couldn't even dream about it because I couldn't even imagine it when I was 14, of the resources and the places that you can go as a young person today. Is there one resource to go to that you're really fond of that you'd like to share?
So, I love looking just at listed cars, online, whether it's Car Gurus or cars.com. But I love reading print subscriptions as well. And one of my favorites would definitely be Podenki Magazine. It's a great resource, not just for watches, but also for cars as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm glad you mentioned Podenki. Benjamin Clymer's been a guest here on Cars Yeah. Watches are cool. Most of the time I find that people that love cars love watches. They also are into guns sometimes because guns are finely tuned machines. And if you get into old English shotguns like some of my friends have, beautiful works of art on these things. So he was a great past guest. And I'll remind our listeners, if you missed my talk with him, you can go back and find him. As with all my 1,700 and now 8 guests here on Cars Yeah, they're all listed there for inspiring conversations. Is there a book, David, that you'd like to share with our listeners?
I would 100% recommend anything from Matt Horanek. He's a great author. I've loved reading W.M. Brown, one of his magazine publications, but he also recently came out with 2 books, A Man in His Car and then A Man in His Watch. And Man in His Car took place, I think it might have been Pebble Beach, but or Amelia Island, maybe. I think it could have been Amelia Island it took place at. Great publications. If you've not read them, go check them out. They're amazing.
You're the first one to mention that, and it's pretty amazing when you get to the kinds of numbers of people I've interviewed here out of 1,708 people. Nobody's mentioned him, which I'm really surprised.
Yes.
So I'll make sure I put links to those books on David's show notes page. And as you listeners know, there's a great place on the website called Guest Recommended Books where there's over 1,700 books listed there, and I made it really easy for you to click and go buy them. All right, David, now the fun part, as if we're not already having some fun here. You know what's coming, the checkered flag question. This can be a bit of a doozy, but you got to make a decision today. I'm going to buy you your first car. Woohoo! The great things about being here on Cars Yeah is there's no money worries. There's no insurance cost worries. I'll even buy you a garage to park it in. So none of that comes to play here. It's more about that special car, that dream car that you maybe have always thought about, but as a listener, there are some rules to my game. You can't sell it to fund your college education or your business or buy a whole bunch of other cars. So I think you're a smart young man. You'd probably pick a Ferrari GTO, sell it, and you'd have life set.
Yes.
Nope, you got to keep it. It's a keeper. It's got to tick all the boxes. And I want you to be able to drive this thing. So it needs to be a car that you can enjoy and drive. No garage queens or maybe a track car might not be the best thing. But if you want a vintage race car, I'll buy you one. Just don't tell your mom. Also, it's the only cool collector car you can have. So that's what makes this fun for you. You can go ahead and have a daily driver to get yourself to school or college, wherever. This is something fun to park in your garage. So what am I going to buy David Kibbey today?
See, I was looking at this question and, thinking about it from past episodes. And I've talked to many people actually, because this was the one question that stumped me. And this is definitely one of the hardest ones that comes up in the show.
See, you're going to learn this with your podcast. You need to ask really hard questions.
Yes. I was back and forth between anything from Porsche and this is the one I'm really leaning towards more recently, a GT500 KR convertible.
Ooh, a very rare car.
Yes, very rare.
Well, look, we've got to narrow it down to something because we only have so much time here. So is it going to be a GT500 KR convertible?
Oh, it's definitely GT500 KR convertible.
You're going to abandon the Porsche mark on me, are you? Oh, wow. Okay.
I'm sorry. I know you're a Porsche guy. Yeah. I'm a huge Porsche guy, but then I was thinking Porsche can be the daily driver. There could be a GT2 RS in the garage daily driver, right?
Now you're talking. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's pretty special. Very darn cool. Now, I know those came in some very unique colors. What color would you like yours? Just so I get the right car.
Ooh. For the GT500? For the...
Yeah, GT500.
Okay. Let's do like a red. I think a red.
Okay.
Most likely. Okay. And I had seen a special edition Coke special edition that was done for one of the model brands. It could have been Johnny Lightning. Okay. I'm not 100% sure. But it definitely checked all the boxes.
All right, I'll get to work. Bring that over as soon as I can find one of those. It's pouring rain where I live today, so I might want to keep the top up, but
yes,
we'll see what we can do. David, you've taken me on a fun ride, and I've really enjoyed getting to know you. Again, want to thank Nigel for connecting us. He meets all the great people, and you've got a great mentor in him and a great friend, and now you've got a great friend in me as well. So anytime you need to lean on somebody, just give me a call.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I want to thank you for sharing your journey. Really kudos to you for being just such an incredible young man. You're on your way to great success, I have no doubt. Before I let you go, though, could you share one little parting piece of wisdom or guidance before you drive off into the sunset in that bright red GT500 KR?
So, I would definitely say live your life, work hard, and again, never burn any bridges, because relationships are a critical part of the car culture. And the next generation of the car culture is very important. So please, when you're at car events or, have people like me come over and just see your car and share stories with us, because we're the ones that will truly be carrying on this love of cars.
Absolutely. And I'm so happy to hear that. That's one of the things that my friends and I worry about. Who will be the caretakers of these machines that we've taken such good care of? And I'm really happy to know that there's a whole big generation of enthusiasts like you out there that we don't have anything to worry about. I'll remind our listeners that you can find a way to connect with David on his show notes page. It's TCR Podcast, then the number 4 at gmail.com. Again, TCR Podcast, the number 4 at gmail.com. The Car Reviewers Podcast. I'm excited to see where you're going to take this venture, David. Once you get the website up and things going, let me know. I'll update all that on your show notes page so my listeners can find everything. Listeners, again, you can find everything on carsyeah.com. Just type David Kibbey into the search bar and his page will pop right up. Reach out. If you can help this young man, hey, give them a hand, because our youth is so important to our future. It's fun to help people move along. Remember when you were that age and you needed some help, no doubt you had somebody that came along and helped you. So do it for somebody else. Nothing like paying it forward. David, thanks for being so generous today with your time.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. This was great fun. Really appreciate you sharing your experiences with us. Until you and I talk again, my friend, I'll see you down the road.
Thank you so much for having me again. This checks off, my bucket list like crazy. I've been, listening to your show forever. So this is great. And I really appreciate it. And all of the listeners for TCR, again, we are going through the changeover. So stay tuned for all of that.
Absolutely. I'll make sure my listeners know, and follow me on social media. And once David is up and running, we'll make a notice there so you can go and check out his podcast, his website, and all the great things that he's coming up with. Thanks so much for being here, and thanks for listening.
Thank you.
If you're listening to Cars Yeah, you've probably spent some time working on your favorite ride. But how confident are you working on your finances? You may be able to rebuild a fuel injection system, but can you decipher the details of a mutual fund? If you're like me, investments, insurance, annuities, budgeting, and other financial concepts may seem a bit daunting, but what if I told you there's a book that describes these subjects and more in an easy-to-read and a very humorous way? My friend Chris Kimball, CFP, a longtime sponsor and past guest here on Cars Yeah, has written that book, and it's titled The Saga of Ike and Penny, a couple's humorous journey through the confusing world of finance. It's a fun look at things you need to know, everything from investing to effective ways to get rid of credit card debt, and it's probably the only book on finance with a VMAX on the front cover and a classic Mini Cooper on the back. The book's available at Amazon for just $10, and this book will dramatically improve the direction of your financial future. I gave copies to each of my children. All securities are through Money Concepts Capital Corp. Christopher Kimball Financial Services is not affiliated with Money Concepts Capital Corp. Get your copy, The Saga of Ike and Penny, today.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's ride here at Cars Yeah. Drive on over to carsyeah.com to find show notes and inspiring automotive fun. Download your free copy of Filler Up, a fun book filled with gorgeous photographs of fuel filler fun, including quotes from more inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Download your copy today, and we'll see you next time on Cars Yeah.